Hello everyone, this is Evan here from the Trade Risk on Friday, December 16th with a weekend market recap video. We are first going to cover the current market environment. We're then going to move on to some of the other major markets, sector analysis, and then finish off with some individual names. As a reminder, if you like these videos and you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, we'd love it if you did. If you click that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner, all it does is keep you up to date with all of the latest market recaps that we publish about 2 or 3 times a week. That way you don't miss any moving forward. Thank you for that. And with that, let's move into markets today and this week. S&P 500 on Friday here finished lower 78 basis points, but keep in mind this went ex-dividend today. This ETF went ex-dividend, which means it looks a little more pessimistic than it otherwise should. If we go to the cash market, SPX, you can see we did finish lower on the day, but just marginally so, 18 basis points to the downside. And if we take a look at the weekly chart, let's start there with some of the broad averages. S&P 500, you can see finished flat on the week, just down slightly. And notice the topping tail here. We tried to push up early in the week to the upside, and that strength was faded, and we ultimately closed exactly where we opened. The IWM actually did get some selling pressure that came through this week, finished lower by 1.74%. And then the Qs and the Dow Jones both finished basically flat, slightly higher on the week. So with that, let's go back to the S&P 500, go back to the daily time frame, and take a look at this action a little bit closer. Monday was this session right here. You can see it was an indecisive day. Tuesday, we got that upside pop. Wednesday was Fed Day, and Fed Day did bring about some higher rates. The Fed did decide to raise interest rates by 0.25%. Clearly not that much of a surprise to the market. It was effectively priced in, and you could know that because we didn't see any large, outsized, disruptive move on Wednesday. It was pretty orderly. Yes, it was a sell day, but it wasn't anything too extraordinary here. Thursday, we had an inside day, and then Friday, a little more weakness. So when you look at this picture here, there's really not too much to say. We're pulling off of all-time highs. This is a healthy market. We're in an uptrend, both supportive by the daily time frame and the longer-term weekly, monthly charts, and things look good right now. We're going to be interested to see how much more do we pull back? Do we get a more meaningful pullback in price, or is this a consolidation through time? That's what we're in the process of measuring right now. For now, you can see we're now 3 days off of the all-time highs. We're back to the 8-period EMA. We were back at this 8-period EMA at the end of November, early December, as we consolidated for about 5 days before we started to push higher. So maybe this time we get closer to the 20-period EMA if we continue to have another day or two of weakness into next week. That would maybe get you closer to about this 223 level. But again, that's all speculation. We really need to just continue to see what this market has in store for us. You can see volume was pretty high here on Friday, but we did have quadruple witching, which was essentially a lot of options contracts expiring today, and that could sort of influence that end of week volume there. So that's the picture. Not too much else to say about it. We really just need to kind of sit tight and measure this. I mean, for us, the way we're looking at this market, we've been pretty on message here that we were interested in selling out the majority of our exposure into these recent highs. Monday and Tuesdays when we did sort of the final amount of our selling there from positions that we were capturing this recent up leg with, and we continue to remain pretty light. We haven't really put on any new positions since we sold, lightened up on Tuesday. We're kind of just waiting to see what this market has in store, how it's going to digest the Fed, right? We do know that now. How it's going to finish off the week, we do know that now. So now, we're heading into next week, it'll be, a potentially more actionable point for us to see if this market can start to break above the prior day's highs, can start to get going again, if breadth can stay supportive, all the little clues that we're going to be looking at next week before we start to dip our toes back in here on the long side. So that's the way we're playing it. Still got a couple of positions on, but very light and cash heavy. IWM, let's go there next. You can see Really the same story. A lot of strength here, right? A market that's near all-time highs. We're pulling off of those highs. Notice now we're day 5 off of the all-time highs, so a little bit more of an extended consolidation already taking place. And look at the past 3 days. You can see these kind of topping tails every time we got back up to about this 137 level in the IWM. So selling pressure coming in a little bit towards the end of the day, kind of driving us off of those highs. That's a near-term level that you can pay attention to. So if we start to break above 137.25 and hold above it, close above it, then that might give you your signal that we're ready to come back here and retest those all-time highs. NASDAQ 100 did have some early strength this week. We broke above this multi-week range. That was very impressive. And then we kind of went sideways high and tight until Friday, where we kind of broke back down, retested this breakout level. So it's going to be very interesting to see, can the NASDAQ 100 hold this 119 area? It's going to be very important if that leadership role is going to continue. So we want to make sure that that happens. For now, we're still above the 8 period, still above the 20 period. Breakout still in motion, but we don't want to see it weaken too much more into next week. So that is sort of the look here at some of the major averages. Let's move into some of the other markets now. TLT, let's go there next. You can see continues to slide lower. We did have that. We did have the Fed rate hike out on Wednesday that did cause this sell bar, this engulfing bar to the downside, but we haven't yet followed through on that move. We haven't been able to break the lows around 117 or so. We've been just kind of chugging above them for the past few days, and that's the picture. Still a lot of momentum to the downside, and we don't really have a signal yet that it's over, so we're going to have to just kind of stay in limbo here, respect the downtrend, respect the momentum, and wait for a little more sign that that a bottom is actually being put in. GLD, similar comments. Wednesday really accelerated the selling to the downside. We talked about that in our midweek video. Was this going to be some type of capitulatory move, or is this just going to be an acceleration to the downside? So far, a little tough to tell. We did get follow through Thursday, but then we got this pop higher here on Friday. So once again, momentum still very much to the downside. Tough chart to want to bottom pick. Not seeing a lot of evidence that this is over. This selling wave of selling is over. But we have unwound and sold off pretty hard for basically a 3 or 4 week move. So going to be a lot of kind of tug of war here. Just cleaner setups out there for me. Not too interested in GLD right now. Silver had a very sort of scary gap down here on Thursday. Silver had been very quietly consolidating and sort of outperforming GLD just on a relative basis over the past 3 or so weeks until Thursday, when it had this sort of nasty 5%, almost 5% gap down. Friday, it basically, it bounced just a little bit, but almost ended flat on the week. So once again, momentum still to the downside. US dollar really putting a lot of pressure on some of these commodities as it really started to ignite to the upside, break above, and it broke above these recent highs here. So quite a bit of strength here in the dollar, broke above multi-year highs, really. So we'll have to see, if this trend continues here. Commodities certainly going to have a difficult road ahead of them. USO, getting into some other commodities, had a pretty resilient week, all things considered. Finished up 1%. You can see had a nice little double bottom here, perhaps on the weekly time frame with the week of December the 9th, and it did get a little bit of a bounce back here on Friday. So once again, if it can start to move above this 1175, 1180 level where it's failed just earlier last week, and then back here in October, that's going to be the mark to sort of get us above there. And if we can, then I would imagine you'd see a good amount of momentum and upside traction start to set in here in USO. Finally, UNG continues, this week actually started to get a meaningful pullback, and meaningful in certainly a very important way, almost 10% to the downside. Granted, it had about a 40% move to the upside, so 10% is certainly a relative number, but you can see definitely pulled off of those highs back to those mid-8 levels, back into the middle of this channel. If we want to sort of take a look at price in this kind of rising channel ever since March of this year when it bottomed out. So UNG continues to just sort of trade in here. Nice buy volume over the past 4 weeks or so. Take a look at the volume at the bottom of this chart here. So encouraging development, and again, can't say enough about that volume. Take a look at all of that upside volume that came throughout the month of November, the highest levels we've seen, even more so than when we bottomed back in March. So something to pay attention to. Maybe there's something more to this recent move here in natural gas that we should keep our eye on. And with that, let's move on to some of the sector analysis. IYT, let's start there. So transportation average has been a strong leader, ever since the election when it got this second leg kind of breakout higher. And now we're finally starting to see the first meaningful correction here. Very healthy action again as you start to flag off of these all-time highs. Very constructive. Keep an eye on this downtrend line. That's what you want to be paying attention to next week. Financials, very similar situation, starting to put in some healthy digestion. These have been the leaders recently. XLI, a little more, a little sloppier and maybe a little bit of a faster pullback here. You can see all the way to last week's lows based on this weekly candle. So XLI, I'll have to see if that can stabilize here around this 20 period. And then again, the home builder or materials names, XLB, continues to flag out here off of those all-time highs. So some very healthy consolidation here in some of those previous leadership groups. On the downside, and a group that saw a great relative strength this week is biotech or healthcare more broadly. If we go to the weekly chart, you can see it actually finished up 1% is healthcare. And if we go to biotech, you can see same thing, up about 1%. So these have been the dogs recently, and we did get a little bit of rotation and resilient trade this week in a number of these names. So that's something to see if you're going to, heading into the end of the year, maybe the worst of the selling is done here in some of these more speculative IBB biotech names, and maybe we can get some rotation in there. So I'd want to pay attention to that. And then on the downside, XLU also had a nice week, right? This has been the dogs over the past several weeks and months, but this week it did have a resilient week as well. XLU and even XLP getting a little bit of a bounce back, finished flat on the week. So that is sort of the quick look there at some of the sector analysis. And now let's look at some individual stocks. We're going to look at just a few here. Facebook is one. You can see it's having tough times getting back above this 121.50 area. You can see a lot of intraday attempts, but ultimately we can't get a close above that level. It kind of coincides with this downtrend line. So you get a little bit of a line in the sand here to use. If you're a day trader, this 121.50 level might unlock some intraday momentum. And if you're looking to swing Facebook and looking for this bottom to sort of hold and act as a near-term bottom, you'd want to see us get a close above that 121.50 level. Pay attention to that next week. Microsoft, I've been talking about sort of my love here for Microsoft out of the big cap high beta tech names, and continues to act very well, still above the 8-period EMA. You can see just coming in and flagging here off of highs. Looks pretty good. Look for a second move here if you're not involved in it. Above $63 looks fairly actionable to me. Tesla also getting some love this week. Finished up 5.36%, right at the highs of the week, snapping this downtrend line that's been in place ever since late August or beginning of August. And you can see it once again there closing at the highs. Still very, a lot of supply, previous supply around here, around this 200 level, but it is trying to get the ball rolling here to the upside. So for you guys who have been watching Tesla for a long time, you might get now might be the time to start paying attention to it a little bit closer. Alibaba, let's look at that one next. You can see it's kind of teetering here on a ledge. This support had been holding right under $90. You can see that's starting to look like it wants to give way here late this week as it made a new closing low. So Alibaba a little bit in trouble. Maybe it's a false signal. will. If we get a quick move back above $90, then maybe we have a false kind of breakdown that we can trade against. But for now, you got to be careful there. And let's end it off with Netflix, which had been acting pretty well here and did trade off a little bit on Friday, but still continues pretty resilient and holding up quite well in this space. You can see to the top end of this range, 128.50 is more or less where the all-time highs are. A little above that actually, but that's certainly where we stalled out here in late October, and we're quickly getting back above that level now. So let's see if that upside traction can continue. It's kind of messy. It's not trending super cleanly. It's doing a lot of back and forth and kind of grinding sideways. So it's tough. You got to maybe trade this a little bit wider of a stop. But Netflix, has been getting work done here on the upside for the past couple of weeks. So that'll do it. I think we'll end it there with Netflix. So thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Hope you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon.